Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Are you coming to us live from Malaga, from the
Yeah.
celebrations in Malaga?
Yes. I mean, actually, I'm far enough away from the stadium to be avoiding the Italians celebrating, but
Okay,
they
good.
they certainly brought some vibes today. Let's say that.
Let's say that. So let's jump right into it. This has been quite the day for Davis Cup. I think let's start there a little bit and then move on to the match exactly. But what was the atmosphere like in in the stadium?
Wonderful. Davis Cup is back. I think the last 4 days have had nations. I think the Spanish or Malaga and Davis Cup organizers are lucky in that they have had Finland here with 5 or 6 thousand people, Britain here with 5 or 6 thousand people, Italy here with what seemed to be a similar level of support. Whether they were all Italians or not, I don't know. But listen, when the match point dropped and when the break or the match points were saved for Yannick Sinner in the singles, let's not forget that this could have all been done 4 hours ago. And when the match point happened, I don't know if I've heard a stadium that loud. Now, there's
Wow.
lots of things going on in terms of tennis. There's lots of
Hmm.
things going on indoors. It's Davis Cup. They're allowed to be as loud as they want. Now, of course, after match points and stuff, you can be as loud as you want at Wimbledon or US Open or wherever. But you've got 10,000 people inside a stadium, and all often or large amounts supporting one side or the other. So even if you've got Nadal, Taylor Fritz at Wimbledon, for example, it's
Yeah.
outside, it's different. You might have 70% of the stadium supporting Nadal, 20% supporting Fritz, and 10% indifferent. Or more importantly, 10% are busy off doing corporate stuff and enjoying champagne, etc. While you know what I mean. So here you
No,
had just
totally.
people super pumped. So
Yeah.
Davis Cup is back, at least this year anyway.
Well, so I was going to say, because you just mentioned thousands of fans from different places coming in, do you think that's because it is in one location? It's in Malaga. We knew this for the whole year. People could plan to all show up if they made it, if their country made
With
it.
with the exception of Canada, I think we pretty much, well, Australia too. So with those two exceptions, the rest were all Europeans. Imagine if we had, listen, wonderful if we had Brazil qualifying, or if we had South Africa, or China or whatever. But the fact that we had 6 of the 8 European nations, plus Malaga is a very easy location. It has the third, I think, busiest airport in Spain, maybe fourth, despite only being 250,000. So, cities like Bilbao and Seville are much bigger, and Valencia too. But Malaga being a tourist destination, you've got a town nearby that's full of Finns. You've got thousands of people coming over from Finland as well. UK as well, super well connected. You've got groups of British people living out here too. So you throw all that in, and then you throw in a few other nations, and the Serbs and the Czechs like to travel. The Finnish certainly have deep pockets, can travel as well as having that community here. And you've got a Davis Cup to remember.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think it'll definitely be of more conversation next year as well. But, Davis Cup is going to be in Malaga next year already. We know this, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So,
I don't know if has it been 100% confirmed. Basically, it's the word, and I keep saying, has this been confirmed? And it's like, it's all but confirmed. And listen, there's a good thing and a bad thing about that. There's the good thing is that I think it'll bring vibes. I mean, by the way, don't forget Spain didn't qualify. If you
right.
throw in Spain into this mix, then you'll have an even bigger vibe. So, but you what? But then you might lose a vibe if Spain go out early and Finland aren't here and Britain aren't here and Italy aren't here. So what you've got, and of course the magic factor, really, more than anything else, possibly more than anything else, or as much as anything else, is the fact that we've got Novak and Yannick here, the two
Right.
best players in the world on the men's tour in the last 4 months. So
Yeah. Even just as
that
a
helps
tennis
because
fan, you want to see that.
absolutely. And then also even just sort of the average, casual fan who's Spanish, suddenly there's more media here, there's more attention. I'm trying to hang on every word from each of Novak's and Yannick's press conferences. You know how it is. You
Yeah.
post something on social media about Novak, and it'll go much quicker viral than it will about any other player on tour.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the match a little bit. Can't wait to
Sure.
see your footage from those press conferences.
Yeah.
Tennis
They've just been
keep talking.
uploaded. So You'll have
Nice.
to wait. There'll be people tuning in right now that have already watched them, but you'll have to wait.
I'll have to wait till after this. So, I mean, I think the question is, what was different? Well, we should talk about the very first match, which was against Lorenzo Musetti and Mimor Kuzmanovic for the singles. Were you as surprised as I was that they picked Lorenzo Musetti?
Yeah, maybe not as much as you, just from guessing from the way you're talking. But I thought, listen, I actually spoke to Carlos this morning about this. And in fact, it was basically the first conversation we had, funny enough, which was, I think I just sort of said, I see Musetti's him, but I would have gone for Arnaldi. Now, everyone will go, you know what, Arnaldi lost the other day, but maybe he should have won. And the confidence that would have given him would have been like, you're my man. You're the one who has this on your racket, just like you did the other day. And I think you're the one who can go toe-to-toe with Kecmanovic. That would have been my decision. Despite the fact that Arnaldi lost, I think it would have been an amazing confidence booster for him. Problem in a team environment is that you have two other members of the team that have not played or barely played. I mean, Sonego, of course, has played played today in the doubles, and I think he played in the doubles as well, didn't he, the other day after Arnaldi lost. So at least Sonego feels a part of it, whereas Musetti, hi Jake, would feel very left out. And you might have an issue. Well, of course, it worked out fine in the end because they ended up going through. But my choice was Arnaldi. Kecmanovic, obvious, he won his match. He's playing the best tennis he's played in probably about 18 months. So, was I surprised by the result? No. Kecmanovic was the better player throughout the first set, really. It was him who was pressurizing Musetti's serve throughout, got the break. Musetti breaks back, a couple of worldies in the tie break. Also, I think it was a very suspect drop shot from memory from Kecmanovic in the tie break. My memory's a bit vague because, of course, there's been so much happened since then. But for me, it was on Kecmanovic's racket all the time. And in fact, he was the better player in each set. What surprised me, though, was I asked Kecmanovic about this. I said, was it a big blow to lose that first set? Or, did you always feel like I did? I didn't say like I did to him, but like I'm telling you now that basically it's no big deal. You're the better player, blah, 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 blah. But he said, no, it was really, really tough to get back into the match, so to speak, after that. But 6-2, 6-1, Musetti had a slight issue with his leg, I think, and some muscular issue in the third set. But Kecmanovic is a better player and, deservedly won.
Yeah, because that was my sort of the reason why I thought, why do they pick Musetti? Because I actually thought he wasn't healthy. I thought in matches he played on tour, he wasn't healthy. So I was surprised by the pick. But just pivoting and talking a little bit about Mimor Kuzmanovic, because I think, sort of the news and all the talk is all going to be about Djokovic and Sinner. But Mimor did his job. He has not a winning record this year, I believe. And he just wasn't looking good coming in, but it's weird. He came into Davis Cup based on his quarterfinals were great. The semifinal match here was great. It's like he came in and he understood the assignment. It wasn't just all on Novak.
And he also said, I think in 2 days ago press conference, and I've got the video somewhere and I will upload it. Unfortunately, I couldn't upload it in time and all sorts of things went on. But fingers crossed, even though Serbia are gone, I still think there's a few gems in that press conference that make it worthwhile to upload. So I will upload it maybe sometime next week, actually. But he said that his form had turned for him in Stockholm. So like about 6 weeks ago, maybe a bit less. And in fact, he started to feel more confident again. And maybe that explains why he was put in. Yeah, as you said, Anastasia, he did his job. That's no criticism of Novak, of course. But, he did his part and was sensational in both matches. I mean, he played 5 sets. And as I say, I think he was the better player. Even against Jack, yes, it was close in those 2 sets. I think it was 7-6, 7-6, wasn't it? But it was constantly Jack who was chasing, was doing miraculous thing. I think I even described Jack as being Nadal-esque at one point, and it wasn't because of his lefty. It was actually because he was just having to struggle to stay in points. And eventually, unless you're Rafa Nadal, that's not sustainable. And as a result, Kecmanovic, won that match, and the same happened again today.
Yeah. So going into sort of like the meat of what happened today, Jannik Sinner, What do you think was different? Because after that, of course, we have the round robin match between him and Novak, where it was sort of like, wow, he did it. He finally beat Novak. And then going into the semifinals and the finals of Turin, it seemed like Novak was like, hold up, I am the king here. You kids can just move aside. What was different? What happened today?
Listen, I'm going to come to that and just very quickly address a question in the question chat. Serbia fans to Italy basically was 90-10 for Italy. For Italy, whether that was Spanish or Italians or whatever. There were some great moments between Novak and the crowd as well. But Anastasia, regarding your question, what was the difference? Well, I think it's an interesting thing now that we've seen 3 matches. An easy conclusion for me would be that one was an ATP Finals final, the 5th biggest match in terms of, Grand Slam of the year, 4 Grand Slam finals, and then this one arguably. And the expectation that Yannick would have had, especially with the week that he had in Turin and everything else and all the energy that he would have expended during that week, both mentally and physically. And then Novak was sensational. Okay. Conversely, we had in the round robin match, it's a different kind of pressure. It's pressure, but it's not the same. You've got another match to play. It's Novak not in a final. Maybe his eye has gone off the ball. He's got to world number 1. I think even Novak mentioned that his first and major thing was to obviously get world number 1, which he did by winning that first round robin match. And then, he's got the buffer zone also of potentially losing a match. So that's very different. Again, today, it's a semi-final. There's a lot of coincidences, if you like, that would fit that narrative. And I more or less do subscribe to that. I think there's a lot more to it. We can talk about the championship points today, and we can talk about, the way that Novak played today, for example, compared to the final last Sunday, just 6 days ago, where I do think Novak's level wasn't as consistent as it was on Sunday, particularly his serving. I mean, he got broken twice in the first set. Yannick never had a look in for a set and a half in Turin. So I guess that's my sort of broad thing. But in a nutshell, playing Novak in a semi-final of a Davis Cup before a potential doubles match, playing him in a round robin second group stage before a third match, and then all the rest of it, is completely different to playing him either in a final of a Grand Slam or in the final in Turin.
Right. So probably Yannick. And I mean, the crowds, they were as loud as Turin. It was almost like you were still in Italy. Now,
despite some very lame pasta, I had some very lame pasta for lunch. In fact, it's the second consecutive day. That aside, the Italians can be proud of the Malaga experience.
Awesome. So of course, Yannick wins the match. It takes us to 1-1. So now we're at a deciding doubles, and everyone alive on the internet is like, yep, Novak can't lose 2 matches in a row. So again, I ask, what happened? And I'll preface this with, all 4 players who were playing doubles today are not doubles players. They're singles players who came together to play doubles, which of course is very different from watching doubles players. Doubles players have different skills. They're better at the net sometimes and things like that. It seemed like Sinner and Lorenzo were super simpatico. They were friends. Like, it seemed like they were having a lot of fun there. The dynamic between Mimor and Novak was a little different too. I know they played 1 match together during the Paris Masters, which I thought was, I mean, when I saw them on the draw list, I was like, oh, they're prepping for Davis Cup. But then they only played 1 match and then withdrew. So what was their dynamic like on
I mean, I guess you're sort of touching on something potentially there. I mean, it does change if you win the match. I mean, I saw, by the way, in the press conference on Tuesday, or Wednesday, I'm not sure if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, the pre-tournament press conference that Serbia gave. And you could see Novak was a very different person in that press conference to Miomir. They were sat next to each other. There was no communication, but I wouldn't read too much into that. Miomir just knew that he wasn't going to get any questions there, and he was just playing with the microphone a bit, and Novak was getting all the questions. And
that
Novak
was actually very similar. That was very similar to Sinner and Sonego's press conference that I watched.
Yeah,
Sinner got all the questions.
it's kind of normal. Listen, just I can address that, and then we'll get into the sort of doubles match itself.
Yeah.
I got a comment earlier this week on a YouTube video, which of course 90% need to be ignored. This one, though, despite being a criticism, I think I think there's a good reason for asking the question. There's a good reason for me to also address it right now, because 90% of those things I won't address. But this was like, why did no one ask any English questions to some of the other people there? And the problem is if you give me that room with all five players, five players and captain, I will spread it around, but I will probably give a little bit more attention to Novak. The problem is I know I'm getting one question if I'm lucky.
Right. Yes.
And so you've
Yeah,
got to go
that's a
for
good
Novak.
point.
There is another thing that I will add as well, and that is that there's a Serbian part coming, or in their own language part, so it doesn't necessarily just have to be Serbia, but other national. So the captains of the players are going to get questions from their own media as well. They're not quite so Novak as obsessed, as believe it or not, as the international media are. So they're going to get some information. I remember during the Canada press conference post Billie Jean King Cup final, and Layla was getting all the questions, and I was quite keen, therefore, to sort of bring other people in, especially someone like Bouchard, who didn't really get involved in the tournament either. I mean, she did play a bit, I think, but I was like, I want to bring her in a bit. So I sort of asked but I got a second question in there, and it was a bit easier for me to get questions in. So there's a lot of that going on. There'll be other media outlets that are there that just want to get a Novak quote about his disagreement with the crowd, which happened, of course, in the British tie. Happened a little bit today, but there was not really much of a comment from Novak on that. But today was a bit more fun, actually, in terms of his interaction with the crowd and sort of doing all this. I don't mind it. I saw some people getting annoyed with it on Twitter, but personally, I just think that's all part. That's what Davis Cup is absolutely all about.
Exactly.
Regarding the match itself and the dynamic between the players, I probably wouldn't put too much emphasis on that. I would probably just focus a bit more on Yannick. I think has the potential to be a very good doubles player. I saw him at one point just speak to Lorenzo after a sort of a point that Lorenzo had lost, and he sort of was just and he was doing it in he wasn't doing it in an authoritarian manner. He wasn't doing it in I'm the boss of this court, you need to improve the way you return serve or whatever. He just had a nice, there was all the, the normal stuff. And I think his performance in the two doubles matches he'd played were probably, at a higher level than Novak's, for example. Maybe, and this is a bit more speculative, maybe Yannick just having a doubles match of the day helped him more coming into that doubles match today than, because Novak didn't have a doubles match of the day because they won 2-0 against Great Britain. So maybe all of that put together, I would put far more weight into that than any dynamics. I think, Novak and Mir are fine. They might not have been so demonstrative, but of course they didn't win the match. So, and they were never really up in the match. And maybe there was a hangover. Maybe Novak's, wasn't as dialed in as he often can be during that doubles match. And I actually felt, but maybe that was just me, but I actually felt as though, okay. And then I think Italy got an early-ish break in both sets, albeit that I think Serbia broke back at one point. But it sort of always felt like Italy were going to win that and probably win it in straight sets.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know you have to go soon, so let's do a little bit of a preview for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we have this question here from Matthew in the chat. Can we assume Yannick beats de Minaur and the Aussies win the doubles, therefore it comes down to the other singles deciding the tie? Which they have to play the singles first, right? So
yeah. What do you think? And because I think I've got about 8 or 9 minutes of battery. So what do you think? And then I'll tell you what I think.
Well, I actually think this is a tough one for the Aussies. I think I put a tweet on saying, will I be Italian or Australian tomorrow? And in terms of the number one singles player, I think Yannick beats de Minaur, So now they're depending on who their second singles player is. And, I think right now, all they have is Al-Nadi to bring out, like based on Musetti's performance today. I'm not taking him tomorrow. So let's say they go for Matteo Al-Nadi. And who do the
They might go Sonego. They might go Sonego. I just don't think they'll go Musetti. Musetti, by the way, with his leg issue, I just don't see Musetti playing.
Yeah.
But I think that I would go Arnaldi. But
right. I
sorry
would
to
too, because I
cut you off
think
there, but
no, I think he deserves a second chance. I think that first match he played was actually very close, and he
yeah,
could have gotten there. You know, there's nerves, there's all of that. But who do the Aussies go for as their second singles player is actually, for me, what might decide it all. And do they do Popren again? Because
I think
Popren
they
is
do.
great. You
I think
think
they
they
do.
do?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they do. I couldn't believe he's 40 in the world, by the way. I don't know why I ranked him so lowly in the world. I know he had a good run in Cincinnati and also at the Australian
Yeah.
Open, but I never realized he was so high. So, yeah, I think they do. I think, Thompson had
I
his
think it was Umag that did
chance.
that for him. His
Yeah,
win in
quite
Umag did
possibly.
that for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I've got like about 4 minutes of battery, so I'll answer this question, which I think is a great one to finish on for Matthew, and also addresses what I think for tomorrow. No, I don't see it quite as clearly as that. I see Yannick as being a. By the way, I get things horribly wrong. I had Serbia as a 60-40 pretty much in each of the three matches today. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Musetti beats Kecmanovic. I wouldn't be surprised if Yannick, it's not a. There's only one or two players in the world that you would give that ratio to against Novak, but one of them is on an indoor hard anyway. But one of them is Yannick at the moment. And then I also probably this is before the doubles happen. This is like this morning when I'm looking at it. I still thought that Djokovic would pull it out in the doubles if necessary. But as I said to you, by the time the actual doubles match rolled along, it was like there was just a feeling of momentum behind Italy that would probably be unstoppable, and it proved that way. But regarding tomorrow, I see Yannick as being a likely winner over De Minaur, but it's De Minaur is a pain in the proverbial for so many
Yes.
people. He's pretty good in these conditions. His defense and attack is just so well balanced. He's just maximizing every single last ounce of his ability, and he's probably had the best year of his career so far on tour. Reminds me a little bit of Leighton Hewitt in certain respects, which of course is the Aussie captain. But yes, exactly. That's exactly. He is. He's annoying. He's annoying. And he also thinks about it as well, about how annoying he is. He said in a press conference the other day that he even thinks about, he was celebrating a lot of points against who was it he played? Lehetska, I think it was. And he was celebrating points in a big way. And then he realized that it wasn't really making it. And he actually started to do the poker face after points because he noticed that was annoying his opponent. But so it's not a lock-in for Yannick, but yes, he probably wins that one. Popperin, though, against Arnaldi, let's say, or any of the three Italians, it's so random. It's 50-50. I mean, who knows? I have no idea. And then regarding the doubles, I don't make the Aussies a huge favourites, as we've seen with Yannick.
Even with Ebden?
I don't. I see it as 50-50. I do.
Okay.
But listen, my red light is flashing, so I do think we're going to have to bring this to a close.
Yes, this was great. Thank you, John, for coming in live from Malaga. Again, the coverage has been awesome. If you're on YouTube, please like this video. Please subscribe. We are trying to get to 5,000, and I know we can do it. I'm going to let you go before your camera and phone die, John, and I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Take care.
Bye.
Shall I hit end stream or you?
I will.
All right.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.